OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line of the final score. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles, McLennan. Got Jason Strudwick coming up in a few moments. Struddy's take on...
wonder if he's fired up about Marner getting 100 points.
Well, he's sitting on 99 right now, and he should be. I mean, how many points does McDavid have now?
99.
They're both at 99, and McDavid's not playing tonight. He probably won't play the rest of the way. Do you think he'll sit on 99?
No, he'll play one more game.
So he'll get to 100 then.
McDavid has what does he have, 11 points in 3 games since he's come back?
It's something crazy.
It's ridiculous.
Because he had 3 assists the other night.
We had 3, 4, and 2. We had 3 last night.
Yeah, I thought he had 3.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's crazy to follow his
Ridiculous
pace.
what he's doing.
But yeah, that's what's at stake. Marner's sitting on 99 points, and I don't know if
he's never gotten 100.
that's the whole thing. And it is important to guys. It should
Sure.
be. It's a great accomplishment.
Yeah.
Like it's a
Yeah,
big
do
number.
it one time to say, yeah, I got 100 points.
Exactly.
It's cool.
Get to 100. We'll get to 100. And if you're Tavares, I would think getting to 40 would be significant. I think he's a guy that I'm pulling back based on what I saw post Four Nations face-off. Giving him a rest, I think, is very significant. I would think long and hard of not playing him all week, but I think he'll go tomorrow night.
Dude, don't even touch the ice.
Yeah, don't exactly. Go put your feet up somewhere.
Think about the Four Nations break. What did you do to prep for coming back? Whatever that is, do it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I think the big guy as well. Like Matthews, Tucks went home last night. He's not chasing anything.
No.
He would be at the forefront. Like if I'm picking one guy where I'm mapping out his week, it's him. I'm starting with him.
Sure,
and if that includes the idea of him not playing the next 2 games, I would do it. Because I think they can win without him. I think, again, you got Buffalo tomorrow, Detroit on Thursday. If Tampa gives up a point in either of their final 2 games against Florida and the Rangers, you're in anyway.
Right.
So treat this week as if it is about the playoffs. Like
They're all in the same boat, Hayes. It's like, I don't know, do you go to them and ask the guys, you haven't had success. Do we need to change anything? Do you guys need something different? You would have to think they've probably already done that 2 or 3 different times, haven't you?
Keep in mind, I don't think the coach cares about anything other than having success. I don't think they go to him and say, "Hey, do you want this and that?"
Oh, yeah.
I
He's
think
probably
Chief
like,
goes
"We're
to them and
practicing."
goes, "This is what you're doing. This is what I have planned for you." That, like, I think the difference in some of the things is the way that he is. It's like, this is my team. I'm going to coach it the way I want to.
Yeah.
I think there is input, obviously, from leaders and guys who are veterans. I think Craig is a guy who would want Mitch to get 100 because Mitch has played well for him this season. I think, he's a player's coach at heart, but he also has a focus in mind. So I look at it, how many times have we seen him just shoot from the hip and go, I don't care about that, or I care about this? Like, I think he's not going to change going, oh, I need this because of this. He's going to go, this is what our focus is, and I don't care what the individual thing is here.
Do you think he has tried to dig into the past? In other words, do you think he's asked around, like, what went wrong here? How were these guys? What kind of mojo were they giving off leading into the playoffs?
I think he would have his answers by being around these guys all the time.
What makes them tick?
What makes them tick?
Like this is when this is actually, you bring up I think an important point. This is why he was hired now.
Yes.
Not they make the playoffs every single year.
Right.
They get to 100 points every year. If Sheldon Keefe was still here, they'd still have 100 points. They may not be in the exact same position. They'd be playing differently. It might feel different, but they would be going to the playoffs. It's a formality. Babcock into Keefe into Berube.
Right.
This is why he's here. This is where he's going to define who he is and how he's different.
Right.
And this is where you can build your legacy in Toronto. Because, in the last 30 years, it's Pat Quinn and it's Pat Burns, not because of the regular season.
Right.
It's all because of what happened come playoff time. And the way that they handled the marketplace and their players and the moment was something that I think Berube is capable of doing. He's got an aura to him similar to a Pat Quinn, to a Pat Burns.
Right.
They're all different. They all have their own unique qualities.
Well, Hayes,
but this
if you were
is
a
when
player,
his resume actually starts in Toronto.
If you were in player, wouldn't you kind of, I don't know. I sat beside a guy like Ronnie Francis where the guy played with Mario. He played with Yager. He won 2 Stanley Cups. When that guy, I was already his friend and his teammate and his line mate, But when you throw all that stuff in there, like, you really listen, man. Like, when a coach has just won a cup recently, don't you want to be, like, all ears? Like, maybe this guy's got something to say to get us cooking right off the hop.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, there shouldn't need to be anything said or done for this Maple Leaf team to be inspired.
Wow, no kidding.
And
I'll tell you
to be
one
on their
thing.
toes.
There was a bunch of guys in Switzerland many years ago for the Spangler that when one man stood up, they were all ears.
They just handed the silver medal right over.
Yeah. They said,
well,
lead
when
us to the
something needed
promised
to be
land.
said for Canada, this guy with the balding head stood up
The tight
and
pants.
delivered.
Okay, here he is from the Got Your Back podcast, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Here's Jason Strudwick. Can you confirm or deny that, Struddy, that you are a leading voice, a beacon of hope for your Spengler teammates?
The voice of reason, I think, is what Pat Quinn called it. You start delivering silver medals for your country, people listen up, So I appreciate the build-up, boys. I'm feeling good about myself today.
Yeah, you should, pal. You should. And listen, we're getting close to go time here, and we just had a heated discussion about which team gives Canada the best chance at winning a Stanley Cup.
Struddy, be reasonable about this. Who is it? Hayes, phrase the question exactly how it's phrased.
Well, the way we've been phrasing it online is leading the witness a little bit because the Winnipeg Jets have secured the President's Trophy. They've been the best team in the league all year. So we've been asking, are the Winnipeg Jets Canada's best hope to win the Stanley Cup this year? Yes or no? If it's no, who would you say is the best chance to win?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. I really believe that they're it. Now, I'm guessing a couple of you are going to Toronto Maple Leafs, which
Noodles
is
did.
a
I
big
wouldn't
surprise.
do that.
I said I believe it's Winnipeg, but they got to show me because they're the past in the playoffs haven't been great. But that being said, in this market, it's the same type of thing. You got to show me. But I believe Winnipeg. I picked them to be a finalist at the start of the year. I think they're a great team, but they still have to go out and show me. That's the biggest thing.
They do. But the difference between Winnipeg and Toronto, I like their goaltending better in Winnipeg, and I like their number one D-men better in Winnipeg. And for me, those are two huge things because one's on the ice all the time, and the other one is going to be on the ice probably, in tight games, north of 25 minutes.
Yeah, and that's Morrissey you're speaking of, and it's a good question. Like, who is the number one defenseman in Toronto? Like, I'm not
Morgan Riley.
Is it Morgan Riley? I don't know. I mean, I think Chris Tanev feels like he's kind of taken that baton.
Well, Hayes, you brought this up. Struddy, you can weigh in on it as well as like when you look at the Leafs, the way they're constructed, they can certainly defend, they can score, all of that type of stuff, but they don't get a lot of offense from the back end, and that's what you're talking about, Strud. Just what Morrissey can bring to the table.
I think and just you look at him, Pionk, DeMello, Sandberg took one off the inside of the leg. That hurts. Dog, you never had that. You got out of the way. You're quick. But, for the guys that block shots, that really is painful. So I like the depth of their D. And listen, I love Tanev. I think he's fantastic, but he can't be your number one defenseman, right? And that just isn't a recipe for winning a Stanley Cup. So I think someone else has to take it, and that makes me a little bit nervous for the Leafs. But Morgan, he's good. But again, is he as good as Josh Morrissey? Is he on some of these other teams who go around the league? Now, the Oilers are missing Ekholm, so he's their number one, and that's a concern for sure for that team. But everyone kind of has their own thing. But again, I look at the back end, and I always look at the D and the goalie, and who are your number one in both those. And I feel comfortable picking Winnipeg even over Oilers, over Toronto, because of those two details.
They've been great all year, and they're going to be in a position in the first round where they're expected to win, which is something they haven't been in that position in a while, right? Where generally they're playing the Colorado.
Well, they were the underdogs last year against Colorado,
even with home ice. I believe they had home ice. Yeah. But you're right; like they have always been a team where it's like, can they keep up with Vegas? Can they keep up with Colorado? And those are the two teams they've faced in the first round the last 2 years, and they've lost. So shoes will be on the other feet when it comes to this scenario. But, okay, putting Winnipeg aside, if they're the top seed, who's number two for you? Is it Edmonton? Is it Toronto? Is it Ottawa? Like, which is the second favorite in the country?
Now it gets interesting, Strud.
Well, First off, sorry, you threw me off with that saying, the shoes are on the other feet.
Right when I pluralize shoe, I'm like, I got to continue it now. I can't say
what
shoes.
Does that mean?
Yeah, it's you. I don't. I'm not quite certain where
I went to high school with a guy who had 2 thumbs on one finger, so he had
okay.
He had
His
2
thumb was on the wrong hand. Thumbs on the wrong hand.
He had 2 thumbs on. He had 6 fingers.
Noodles
on his
went to
left
high
hand.
school with Scherzer. Anyway, Strud.
Yeah, sorry. So I'll try to get back on track, but that one threw me off. So
Yeah.
I think the question was, who's next? And I'm going to go with the Oilers because of 2 guys, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Those 2 guys, we've seen them do it in the playoffs time and time and time again. I believe McDavid, although he's not playing tonight, he just rattled off 9 points in 3 games, playing with guys that haven't been his traditional line mates. And then Leon, I believe, will be healthy as well. And those guys can really perform and get it going. So I think the next one in line, unfortunately for Leafs fans, is the Oilers.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to follow up on that, Struddy. Where are you at with all these? Like, I'm sorry, like, on paper, if everybody was healthy in Edmonton, I think you'd feel comfortable with this team. But there is zero health here.
Yeah, your boy Ekholm's a big one.
Well, the
Strud. You
Ekholm-
talk about him all the time.
The Ekholm is a massive blow. But is there some narrative that he came back too early? Like, the guy that I'm trying to...
Jake Wallman.
No, the guy they got from Boston.
Frederick.
Frederick came back
Frederick
too
came
early.
back and got hurt the first shift,
But that's
basically.
like, so is there a narrative out there? It's like, okay, what's going on here? That the doctor's under
malpractice.
The heat? Is what's going on? Because they're coming back and it's like they're too early and all of a sudden they're hurt. So is it bubble wrapping everyone? Because they played yesterday with what 5 or 6 of their regulars not in the lineup. How many of them are going to be available for game 1?
Well, as people like to say, the shoes are on the other feet. And, for a long time...
Some other guy's feet. That's where the shoes are. Continue.
So the Oilers have been so healthy for many years, right? They've lost very few man games. And now, it's catching up, and it's all caught up to them, and they have all these injuries. And, Trent Frederick with the sprained ankle. I sprained my ankle twice. And it didn't feel good for like a year. It takes forever. And you think it's okay, then you go into an uncontrolled situation, which is a game of hockey. And, you just, it grabs you again, and now you're kind of a setback. So I believe they're talking about maybe first game, probably not though, maybe second game of the playoffs. So what is that? Still, a week away or so. But the injuries are for sure a concern for a couple of reasons. One, you don't know who's going to be available. And then 2, feeling good about your team's game. Right. Trent Fredericks played 6 minutes with his new team. And, people think it's easy to play with Connor or Leon. Well, yeah, it's fun, but doesn't mean it's easy. Those guys, playing with elite players, they want you to move and pass and get it back to them, all these types of things. It's not just chip it by the D-men and run them. And then Evander Kane's a complete wild card. He spoke today, and he says he's close to being 100%, so he'd be a lift. But who knows? The guy hasn't played for a year. That's a pretty tall order. And then the Ekholm one is quite honestly, it's devastating now. Today the coach talked about him being out for at least the first round. Is that coach talk for we're trying to just keep people guessing? I don't really know. But the reality is you're now down to 4, what I would call kind of top 4 guys, where they had 5 before. And now if someone else gets hurt, now all of a sudden you're down to 3. And, now you're looking down at Troy Stetcher, Ty Emberson, Klingberg, I'm not sure where he's at, and Josh Brown. And, with all due respect to those guys, I was those guys. And even I was like, I don't want to put this guy in. Don't put me in. We want to win this thing. So it's pretty scary. But
did you ever say it to a coach, though, Strud? Did you ever say, maybe me going in isn't the best idea?
My mouth didn't, but my eyes didn't lie. The windows into my soul. I'm like, you don't want to put me out there.
Just seducing your coach into a healthy
One
scratch.
night in Worcester, Struddy was -3. We were 10 minutes in, and Jimmy Roberts was yelling and staring down at the end of the bench, and Struddy was just rattled. I mean, you remember you were sweating through your jersey, and the last one on the third goal against, you went to dump it in from center ice and you fanned on it, and they went the other way. -3, it was ugly.
Uh-oh.
It's awful. Like when you're minus 3, you're not feeling too very, very good about yourself. Then an old man's yelling at you, telling you how much you suck. It's just, well, you're confirming how you feel. Thanks for that.
Yeah,
really
very
appreciate
inspiring.
that.
Well, the other thing too is there was a guy that worked the training room, and he was standing there, and he said, "Strudwick, that guy can shoot the puck harder than you can." He was pointing to the guy who was pushing the shopping cart around in our dressing room. It was an ugly.
Herb Brooks, your coach? What an inspiration.
Oh,
Man.
yeah, no, I didn't feel too good. I don't think I grew that day too much. It was a tough one.
No kidding. But you bring up an interesting point about the pressure on McDavid and Draisaitl, and it's always been there, and they've always lived up to it. They have always stepped up to the moment, like for the most part throughout their playoff career. They're the two most, I think, productive playoff players, the most clutch players. I think Draisaitl's number one on that list in terms of just knowing what he's going to bring and how he's going to dominate.
Right.
But it feels like they're asking for even more this year, Strud. Like based on the other injuries, based on Hyman not having a great year, Nugent Hopkins not having a great year, Bouchard being up and down, Skinner and what he's going to do in
It's
net.
a lot, man.
At the Kings.
A lot of question marks.
A lot of question marks. Furthermore, Draisaitl's not playing down the stretch, and McDavid's been in and out. When he's played, he's looked great. But is it asking too much? Like just blind faith, these two guys can bring you to the promised land.
You know, it's an interesting question. I guess if the forward group is healthy, it's a pretty good forward group. You know, I think you have a little bit of everything. The problem is there's just so many question marks about it. So recently, it's been Jeff Skinner, McDavid, and Connor Brown. So that's two guys that have been mostly in your bottom 6 are now playing with Connor McDavid, and it's worked, right? They both scored. Connor Brown, I think he has 4 or 5 goals in his last 5 games or something. And then Connor, I think he had 9 assists, which is a pretty good career for some guys. But then you go down. So if that's the case, then you can maybe put Hyman and Nuge and Draisaitl together. Or if Frederick gets healthy, you can put him with Draisaitl and Hyman, and then Nuge is your third line center with maybe Paul Colton and Arvidsson. So there's tons of options here for the coaching staff. The problem is just the questions about what it looks like, and then who's passing you the puck from the back end. So I have no doubt that these guys, Connor, Leon, will be ready. When I look around the team, that Leon could miss a month or two, and I'm sure he'd be fine to come out and just do what he does. Same with McDavid. But it's everybody else. Are they going to be able to step up and get it done? Because it takes more than just 1 or 2 guys to maybe get by a round, maybe beat LA that way, get to Vegas. I mean, those D are going to be tough. That's a big group of D. Maybe get by that, but to get by either Dallas, Colorado, or Winnipeg, that's a murderer's row here.
Yeah, it really is.
Pathway is just dangerous there.
Very tough.
And I say this. Oh, you brought it up. Like LA is no joke. They're a hell of a team.
No.
And that's the thing. Like I think the Oilers they're going to end up in third place, so they're going to start on the road. The biggest challenge for them is to try and win in that building, because LA's lost, 5 games all year in that building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I know regular season's different, so the thought process is you got to steal 1 and get home ice. I get that. But there is just, on paper, if everybody was healthy, Edmonton would be a different conversation. But there's this giant if beside 6 or 7 names. And I think that has to be concerning for people in Edmonton. It's got to be concerning to people that look at Edmonton and go, okay, can this team do anything? There's just so many questions that need to be answered. They can be answered, but also there's just so many ifs. What if? And that's where you look at it and go, it might just be too big of a hill to climb.
Yeah, and then you look at Doughty and Joel Edmondson. Like, where are they at health-wise?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because that could be a pretty big thing. And then the guy, I love Quinton Byfield. I think that his game has grown this year, and he's going to be a handful, man. That guy, I don't know if he have 50, 60 points this year, maybe 22 goals. But he's going to be a real handful, if not, this year for them. That's the wild card for me versus the Oilers.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, we got to get there first to find out exactly what's going to happen. We know those two teams are going to meet, but
and your buddy is going for 100 points, Strud.
Yeah.
Where are you at with Mitch Marner?
Mitch Marner. I don't see McDavid with 100 points yet. Backside of his career out there. Go ahead, Strud.
No.
Your take.
No. I mean, it's true. I mean, if Connor's only going to play 50 games, how can he not get 100 points, right? I mean, that's a challenge. But no, listen. I want the Leafs to do well.
Really?
And now they give themselves a chance. No, it's true. I do. I like a lot of players on that team, and I think they put themselves in a position. But just like the Jets, you got to show that you can get it done.
Yes.
And they have they had some nice road games. That win was it against Tampa? They were up. Was it last week? They were up 2-0 or 3-0 almost right away.
Held on.
I love that.
Yesterday at Carolina was a big win, though. Big win in Carolina yesterday.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was a big one. And then the show against Florida, maybe not quite as good. So, but everyone has off days, right? So we can't just pick and choose. But I think they're going the right direction. I look forward to seeing what happens.
Yeah, and it looks like Battle of Ontario. The Leafs, if they get another point or Tampa throws away another point. Yeah, and I'm curious how you look at that from afar, Strud. Like you don't have any chips on the table here when it comes to Ottawa, Toronto, the Battle of Ontario. Which team do you think would be kind of salivating more at that proposition of those two teams playing each other?
Well, I think they're in different situations. I don't think Toronto can care who they're going to play. I think they should think they can beat anybody. Like that's the attitude they can come out. We are going to play our game, and that should be enough to beat any team we want to play. We've taken a step forward. Whereas Ottawa, I mean, what do they have to lose? Let's imagine if the first game Ottawa wins it. How tight do the pills get around Toronto if that happens, right?
Man.
So that to me is a real big wild card, and they have nothing to lose. They just wanted to make the playoffs. So I think that this is both teams have a reason to really be happy with where their game's at. But Toronto's got to come out and play their game. They cannot worry about what Ottawa does. And Brady Tkachuk, who's going to slow this guy down? Which is it? Carlo?
That's
because
the question,
he's going to come out and he's going to be all over Matthews. He's going to be all over Marner. He's going to be all over Morgan Riley. And not that you have to fight him, but someone's got to at least go over and, hey, that's enough. Slow it down, Brady.
Yeah, well, you're right. Like someone, like if he comes in and is just bulldozing over people and punching people in the head and causing scrums,
you don't think that will be like that?
I would assume so. But the question is, does he take it too far? Is he a rabid dog out there? And it's like, go ahead, take 2 minutes.
Yeah,
like he's got to be careful. Too. He can't be stupid.
You got to be smart. I would think. Everyone here in Toronto wants Ottawa. I think people in Ottawa want Toronto as well.
I 100% believe
because,
that.
Because you look at it. Because not because the Leafs aren't good, it's because of the alternative. Mm-hmm. What you're looking around the corner is going, Tampa's won, Florida's won as recent as last year. So you're going, well, the Leafs haven't yet, so okay, we'll take that team.
And Sens 3-0 against the Leafs.
Yeah, but year. I still think regular season is.
I hear you, but still, it's better than being 0-3.
You're right. It's
like you might as well have something to look towards.
But in Ottawa, I do believe that they think, okay, well, we do match up nice against them, but that team doesn't have a lot of experience. Now, that's why the Sens brought in Amadio, Perron, guys like that who've won and been there, Cousins, like guys who've won Stanley Cups at the bottom, kind of in your bottom six. Mm-hmm. That's what they're looking to do. But you're right. Is Brady Tkachuk going to be a difference maker in a positive way or a negative way? That's the biggest challenge. He's got to keep his emotions.
Got to channel it, right?
Right, but he is a handful. Like both sides are going to have. I think it'll be a great series.
Yeah.
But both sides are going to have their challenges.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, and that's the question. Like, from a physicality standpoint, it's going to be very difficult for you to stop Brady. But then you look at a guy like Stützle, who's never played a playoff game. Can he elevate in the playoffs? Because they're going to be all over him.
Yeah.
Right.
They can't answer Tkachuk, but someone's going up to Stützle and say, I'm punching you in the head every night.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it? So it's a tit for tat. It's going to go both ways. But anyway, we're getting closer and closer, Strud. Enjoy your final week out there. Shoes on other people's feet. And we'll do this again before the playoffs start, hopefully.
I can't wait. Keep the sayings coming, reinventing the language.
Thanks, Struddy.
See you, boys.
There's Jason Strudwick joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Drive the built-in Canada fuel-efficient, fun-to-drive Toyota RAV4 gas or hybrid models available. Visit mapletoyota.com. I am so jacked for the Battle of Ontario. I will be sickened if this doesn't happen now.
Yeah,
it has to happen now. I have to see it.
I don't see why
it's a change
to.
of pace. That's a layup.
Exactly.
Like it's just something different. Like God,
just one anthem, and you're back and forth up and down the road, and it's old, and it'll be like Tux will be down there and Stumpy will be all these great figures of the Battle of Ontario of the past.
Yeah.
And then in Ottawa it'll be the same thing. Alfredson will be out and Wade
Chris
Redden's going to
Neal.
come out and Chris Neal and there's just so many figures
Now,
that are just
remind me of what happened with the Sens win in the regular season and then lose
the Leafs
in the playoffs.
have never lost to them in the playoffs. Like
But
they
the
beat them
Sens
every
would beat
single.
them in the
Ottawa
regular
would
season?
sometimes be the 1 seed or the 2 seed, and always. And the Leafs swept them once. There were a couple of 7-game series.
Yeah. Because I was
they were
playing
always
in the
good
league
battles,
and I couldn't
man.
care less about them.
Well, obviously, why would you?
But,
If you're playing, then
look, but it was just.
But up here, it was as big as it got.
Yeah, well,
man.
this
It
would
was-
be amazing. Like
Yeah,
I think it's like wasn't it a 90%, 95% chance it's going to happen? What are the numbers?
Well, it's exactly. I mean, Ottawa's there. Ottawa's done their part. It's
just the Leafs
Ottawa's
gotta
got
get that one
to. Yeah, if the
point.
Leafs lose the next 2 in regulation and Tampa win their next 2 games, then it'll be Tampa, Ottawa, Leafs playing Florida.
So they just need
the
a
Leafs
big
are
game
guaranteed home ice.
They need a big game in Ottawa
Yeah.
or in Buffalo tomorrow.
Exactly.
That's
Go
what
win tomorrow or get it into overtime and then
Yeah.
put your feet up, and we'll see a Battle of Ontario.
Yeah.
All right, Vladdy Guerrero officially signing today. He was up there at the presser, and I have a great appreciation for the fact that he didn't have his interpreter up there. He was speaking with the media. He was representing himself. I was really impressed with that. That's tough to do, man, and he's doing it, and it's a big moment for the club. And they're on a heater right now. Like, they got a split in Baltimore, but they're leading the AL East. They're a couple games over 500. They got Atlanta in town starting tonight, and Ross Atkins will join us on pushing this over the finish line. And also, what's up with Max Scherzer? We got a bit of an update earlier today. We'll try to get more from Ross. He will join us next. All right, it was a big one down at the Rogers Center today. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., $500 million, man. A 14-year contract. Locked in, it's signed. And the Jays are in a good spot, man. They got a split in Baltimore. They're at home now. It's you got Atlanta in town. The Braves have been struggling a little bit out of the gate. And everything is coming together for Vladdy and the Blue Jays. And I thought it was really cool that he was up there, speaking and, speaking English. And I know that can be a challenge for a lot of players, a lot of people when English is a second language. And thought he handled it really, really well. And it was a big moment in the history of the club. That's basically what came together this morning.
Yeah.
And earlier this afternoon.
Well, it's nice that, the language is right there for you
Absolutely.
and he made the effort.
He's going to be here for a long time.
$500 million in your jeans.
That's
All
not
right?
too bad.
Be fine
Not too
with
bad. To chat about that, among other things, including the series starting tonight, here's the GM of the Blue Jays. Here's Ross Atkins. How you doing, Ross?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. I'm curious your kind of take on Vladdy and how comfortable he is now, kind of being the face of the team. And again, I thought it was pretty significant. He's up there without his interpreter. He was speaking to the media, by himself, and I thought that was really cool to see. What did you make of how comfortable Vladdy looked throughout this whole process?
Yeah, it was, first and foremost, it's just so powerful for the organization that we are talking about this being done here today. And, having gone through it with him, having been with him for 10 years now and watching his growth, his maturity and professionalism has always been powerful, and it's just continued to get better and better. And today was an example of that.
How do we get here today, Ross? It seemed like there was some kind of sad-looking faces, disappointment. Spring training opened up. There's no deal to get done. Comments from both sides, and then anything like this, there's got to be movement from different areas. Either a player says to his agent, an owner says to the president, or yourself, let's get this thing done. How did we get here today?
Yeah, it takes there's so many variables in these types of deals. So it's not just about the $500 million, although that is by far the most important one.
Yeah.
But there are so many other aspects to it to make it work for the team and to make it work for the player, to make it for it to make sense to the agent, and that just took time. It really did, to find the sweet spot, and more time than usual for sure, because of the magnitude and the pending free agency coming up. But in the end, I think Vladdy was one of the things that was so impressive to me is how poised he was with me throughout the entire interaction. Over the years, and then throughout spring training, and then into the season, as I was interacting with him, he was extremely, extremely poised. And, always I expected the professionalism, but that's a lot to handle. And he handles it exceptionally well.
Ross, did you ever think, and you've been around the game a long time, did you ever think that the numbers that guys are signing on these contracts would ever get to this? I mean, Ohtani, busts through the ceiling. Doesn't even bust through it, just drives right through it, and then it trickled down effect. Did you ever think that some of these numbers were going to be put on the contracts?
It's not something I spent a lot of time thinking about 15 years ago. Okay, where in the hundreds of millions are these contracts going to get to? But I will say that as we speculated on Shohei and speculated on Juan Soto and obviously did our work on Vladdy, we could see it pointing to these types of figures. So it's just the game has, it's such a great thing. I've always said this. I love it when players get paid because that's what the game is about. It's about the fans and the players. And I love seeing it happen at such significant this magnitude. It's just incredible. It's a monumental deal and will be historic for the Jays, and he's going to be a Blue Jay for life.
Yeah, and it really is an incredible movement for the team considering, past contracts and I think George Springer had signed the largest contract in franchise history, and obviously this is at a completely different level. And there would have been stress, crossing T's and dotting I's, but now that it's done, I'm curious, the stress doesn't go away because now it's got to pay off for you, right? Now Vladdy, he's got to perform now for the next 14 and a half years. What makes you and your staff believe that you'll get the return on investment that is expected here, where you're paying him? He's the third highest paid player in the history of the game. What is the expectation? What does he have to do in the next 10, 15 years?
You know what? It's be himself and get better. He has to have those standards. He can't. I don't expect Vladdy to change. He's been so incredibly consistent over the last 10 years of his professional career, and obviously was prior to that when he was 12 and 14 and coming into being a professional. So that it's incredible to think about just how young he is. But he does have to focus on being a better player every day, and that's what will elevate our environment and create the type of energy and atmosphere and environment that we need to win baseball games. And he knows that it comes with a lot of expectation, but from the starting point of him being such a talented baseball player that enjoys it so much, you guys know very well that's a very good foundation to have.
How does this number in the contract kind of affect things moving forward with Bo possibly? I think it was you that said the idea moving forward would be to have these two together, and with a number this big, could there be advantages and disadvantages to even starting negotiations with Bo?
Well, I mean, every piece of information matters. I would never deny that, but every situation and circumstance is different. So that is the case prior to this deal. There were other deals that would have implications on whoever else that we're going to talk to about extensions or about acquiring. But we'll do the best of our ability to we always talk about sharing risk, and what that means is, it's not a very complex thing to think about what shared risk is, but it really comes down to a team being willing to stretch a little bit and take some risk on the performance and injury side, and a player being willing to potentially have less money on the table as a free agent, and or less earning potential as a player would as a free agent. And so we'll just work to see if there's a way to line up there.
With Ross Atkins, and Vladdy was asked about the future of Bo with the team at the presser today, and he said that's his brother. He'd love him to be here, but he doesn't have any control over it. I'm curious if you have different expectations for Vladdy, considering the significance of the contract and the commitment away from the field when it comes to selling your program, compared to other players that would sign 2-3 year deals at lesser money. In other words, is there an expectation now within the organization for Vladdy to be someone that will help you sign free agents, help you speak with younger players who are coming in. You have a draft pick. Does he have to speak with that player? Would you expect him to meet with that player? What comes with this contract that could apply a different set of standards to Vladdy compared to other players?
I think it's more about what we were talking about before. Just focus on being a better player every day and a better teammate every day. And he has such a good foundation and starting point. And as it relates to recruiting players, absolutely. But that existed before this deal. And that exists for Bo, and that exists for George and Jose and so many others. And it just depends on who we're recruiting and how can we connect and what's the most powerful approach to take. And sometimes Vladdy will be a very integral piece to that.
Max Scherzer, his thumb's feeling a little bit soreness. That's what's been reported. I mean, where are you at with that? Is you taking the cautious approach? It's
getting dicey here.
We got to be honest. We're a little bit nervous. I mean, where are you at?
Are you on the six-pack nervous side or more on the Rick Bushwood side?
I'm on Rick Bushwood. Rick Bushwood.
We're in Rick Bushwood territory here.
Rick,
it sounds like a second doctor in like 2 weeks here. We might be pushing Nick Cage soon here. Take us off that cliff, please. Please.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that he has to. We have to find a way to help him get past that, and we're going to do everything in our power. He is checking a lot of other boxes, and his performance in spring training was encouraging. His stuff has been encouraging. And so if we can find a way to get over this hurdle, we're going to be in a very, very strong spot, and our focus is to do so and to do it the right way.
Well, I mean, you guys are more than just surviving without him. Your team ERA going into this past weekend was, I believe, the highest it's been in franchise history, through 14 games, 15 games. The bullpen's been great. Hoffman was phenomenal again yesterday. He's blowing kisses to the Orioles. I mean, can you take us through that Hoffman situation in particular? Like, do you send a bottle of wine to the Orioles doctors and say thank you for that physical being failed? And like, how did you land him? And now that you have and you've seen it up close and personal, how lucky and fortunate do you feel that you got him signed?
Yeah, it's interesting with they're not. It's not often that happens. Mm-hmm. It is rare, but we've been through it before where something is less than amicable about the physical for a team or for something happens in the negotiation, and we were just fortunate to be in a position to have him go through our process, and we didn't have the same level of concern, so. You have to do that over and over, put yourself in good positions, and hopefully have better outcomes than most.
Well, and seeing him go multiple innings, like obviously you know he's healthy, you believe he's healthy, but he's being pushed to the limit like multiple times this year, and he's shown up. He's got a sub-1 ERA. Because the bullpen, we talked about it a lot last year. You were on with us. It was a real issue for your team. I mean, you guys, you threw away a lot of games late in innings. And so far, so good. And Hoffman in particular, like how significant is it to have kind of that alpha dog, so to speak, as the guy who's kind of the man in the bullpen, so to speak?
Yeah, you've seen teams do it different ways. There's been very successful teams that don't have the absolute back-end stop that can still win a ton of baseball games. But, man, when you do, it is really, really powerful for the rest of your bullpen and just for the winning environment that it creates. There's a level of confidence as you get closer and closer to the game that everyone can feel, and that is a real, tangible difference maker. And so he's off to a good start. We obviously hope that it continues and are confident that it will. He has just the ability to get swing and miss of left-handed and right-handed hitters and do it with multiple weapons. It's not just a split or a fastball or a slider that he's going to get swing and miss with. He gets it with all three against both sides of the plate, and he's enjoying it. He's doing it with moxie and confidence, and it's really rubbed off in a positive way.
With Ross Atkins, so you guys 9-7, you're leading the division. I'm going to ask you a glass half full, glass half empty question because we know the stats, we know the standings, and you're back home against the Braves starting tonight. Yet, the power just hasn't been there. I saw a statistic yesterday afternoon. Your team, the Jays, the only team in baseball that haven't hit a home run with a runner in scoring position, which is somewhat shocking. Vladdy still hasn't hit a home run. Santander hit one over the weekend. He's got one. Bo hasn't hit one yet. So 9-7 without the power, without the slugging. Is glass half full or glass half empty?
Yeah, I was talking to our hitting coaches today. I didn't bring up the topic. They did. And, their comments were, wait until that comes. It is going to be electric, and they feel it coming. Tony Taters has been a guy that notoriously has slow started a bit. The power has come a little bit later into the season. Vladdy similar last year. Once he gets into his rhythm, the ball starts to elevate a little bit more. Bo probably deserves a couple home runs at least with a couple of balls he's driven, just had bad luck on. So they're coming. The home runs are coming at a much higher clip. That's an easy one to go glass half full on, but part of that is the fact that we just haven't hit many.
Right, and do you have an anticipation for what the vibe's going to be like tonight? You're back home, Vladdy signed. Like, if Vladdy hits a home run tonight, how electric do you think it could be down at the Rogers Center?
Yeah, that would be. He's got a knack for that. He's got a knack for the big stage and the moment. So that would be very exciting.
Yeah, I think the money sign might have to come up when he's rounding the bases. So man, he might have to. It's an incredible contract, but I know a lot of Blue Jay fans really, really excited that it got done, and a lot of support for Vladdy. Could you feel that, Ross? Like opening day, even like when you're down. I'm sure you were there in New York, opening day with the Mets. Did you have a reaction to their crowd cheering Vladdy when at that point he was still unsigned?
Yeah, of course. Of course, I'm aware and feel it as a competitive, teammate. I want everything in the world for us to be the best possible team, and it is a very cutthroat and competitive environment. So I do very much feel it and just embrace it and focus on what we can control. Well,
you controlled this one, and you got it over the finish line, and Vladdy's going to be here for a long time. Again, you guys are off to a really good start, and you're back home, Braves tonight. So good luck tonight, throughout this series, throughout the week and the season, and we'll do it again down the road. Thank you, Ross.
All right, Brian. I loved hearing about O-Dog's provincial experience in the washroom, too, man. My daughters play.
Ross, we're out of time, pal.
My daughters, I know there's nothing worse than those washrooms in that experience. So I was feeling for you, man.
So you're a volleyball dad, too, as well. Have you been in a position like O-Dog? You got to give us the truth,
guys.
man.
This is professional stuff here.
I mean, listen.
Watch those boulders, man. If you're in Kitchener, watch those boulders, man. They're dangerous out there. Thank you, Ross.
All right, guys.
There's
have a great night.
Ross Atkins, who I think he empathized for you, I think he.
Guys, you can't be pulling that stuff up in a professional. We
We
try
just
to put
asked
a
Ross
professional.
Atkins if he's had constipation issues at a
volleyball tournament.
And then
the guy just signed Vladdy Guerrero.
And then run into a giant boulder on the way out of the parking lot.
Dude, you are a wanted man in Kitchener. You're not allowed
there
back.
There are people that write to me and say,
this guy in court.
Yeah, but
See you in
they're
court.
saying the boulder is put there so people don't drive across the grass.
Noodles, I didn't do anything nefarious, okay? I did nothing.
Richard Kimball.
Exactly.
No, I'm Sykes. Sykes.
You're Sykes, all right. You're Sykes. The one-armed man cruising around Kitchener with a absolute boiler issue that needed to be rectified.
It's the biggest dump in the world. Yeah.
That's true.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Oh, hey, look at this. Someone sent me this from Kitchener.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they said I found this.
Dude, that was that might be like the dagger. Like there's cuts and there's like different wounds. When someone said, when the mug flew and rolled on the floor and someone said, "Oh, look, a TV coffee mug, probably O-Dogs," I literally wanted to stuff my head in the toilet.
Yeah, that one you gotta to escape at that point. You gotta find a way to disappear. But we made it, and it's all good.
Yeah.
Steve Sands coming up on the Rory McIlroy Career Grand Slam. Where does it stack up all time in terms of Masters history? That and more still to come with Sandsy. CJ will join us as well. Big night at the Bell Center tonight. Leafs back in action tomorrow. Jays in action tonight. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Steve Sands coming up in about 15 minutes. We will revisit our tailor-made PGA picks as well. It was a barn burner going into yesterday.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Hazy. Tom Kim on Saturday had to play with a marker And a marker is a member at Augusta National, typically the best player. And if there's uneven numbers, they don't want to send a guy out by himself. If at the Canadian Open, Lawrence Applebaum called you and said, there's an odd number of players, do you want to play as a marker on Sunday at the Canadian Open? Would you do it?
I would do it, and
No,
I
you
would
wouldn't,
be
dude.
so terrified with the crowds out there and cameras, because there'd be cameras. Like I do the
Dude,
Pro-Am, there's no
everything.
cameras.
Full meal deal. It would be in the morning.
Yeah,
Because,
exactly. And let's clarify. Like I wouldn't be on the Golf Channel wouldn't be like, hey, we're checking in with Bryan Hayes
But
here.
do you think you could pull it off?
You'd pull a Tom Kite.
I
wouldn't
think
you?
I wouldn't be able to pull it off, because here's the thing, man. You'd have to play from the tips. You can't be like, all right, I'm going up and playing the blues.
But you would tell LA, I'm in. I'll do it.
I would do it out of courtesy to Lawrence, Golf Canada, TPC Toronto. But I would be so terrified. I would Tom Kite somebody.
Yeah.
Like I would scissor hook a drive and bury somebody.
Dude, there's this guy at Augusta that used to beat the pro. He beat Sergio, and Sergio wouldn't shake his hand.
Apparently, he beat McElroy playing Augusta. Like he shot 65 and Rory shot 66, like in a practice round. This guy, he's got the course record.
Yeah,
I believe he has. Shot a 61
The
or
members
Why isn't
course,
he on the tour?
I mean,
he's just
I
a
don't know.
+3. He's a stick.
Yeah, he's a great
not
player.
tour
He's got
player.
big money. The guy, he'd be losing money to be on tour.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if the guy's a member at Augusta, he's probably worth $1 billion.
Yeah,
It's like I'm not
having
going
fun.
to play on the PGA Tour. Are you nuts? Guy's like, I'm a member at Augusta.
Yeah.
I'd get Crapper out there, Mike Crapper, because that guy's a stick.
Okay, that would be interesting. Me versus Crapper at the RBC Canadian Open.
I want you versus Crapper at Weston as soon as the weather's nice, and
Done.
I'm going to record the whole thing.
Dial it in.
There we go.
My Crapper versus Bryan Hayes. Hour 3 coming up.
Mike
Crapper.
Crapper.
Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.